You know that sick feeling when you realize someone you love has been stealing from you? Not just a few dollars here and there. I'm talking about systematically destroying your financial life while smiling to your face. My name is Mike Harris, and I'm 45 years old. My daughter Angelica, my own flesh and blood, racked up $90,000 in credit card debt in my name over 6 months. She used my identity like it was her personal ATM, buying designer handbags, staying at luxury hotels, living a life I couldn't even afford while I worked 60-hour weeks just to keep a roof over our heads. I went through every emotion you can imagine. Shock when I got that first call from the credit card company. Rage when I saw the statements. Betrayal that cut deeper than any knife when I realized she'd planned this, concealed it, lied to my face every single day. But I didn't stay in that victim mindset. I fought back. I drafted a repayment contract that would take years to fulfill. I threatened her with federal prison time, and I meant every word. Because here's what I learned. When someone betrays you, even family, they need to face real consequences. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. I was sitting in my home office on a Tuesday afternoon, reviewing some quarterly reports when my phone rang. The number looked familiar, my credit card company. I figured it was just a routine fraud check or maybe some promotional nonsense. Mr. Harris? The woman on the other end sounded professional, clipped. This is Monica from Sentinel Financial Services. We're calling about some unusual activity on your accounts. What kind of activity? I asked, already feeling that first tingle of dread crawl up my spine. Well, sir, it appears you've maxed out 3 of your credit cards in the past 6 months. We're seeing charges for luxury handbags, designer clothing, expensive dinners, hotel stays. I cut her off. That's impossible. I haven't used those cards in months. There was a pause, and I could hear her typing. Sir, the charges are substantial. We're looking at approximately $90,000 across your 3 accounts. The room tilted. My stomach dropped like I'd just stepped off a cliff. $90,000. There has to be some mistake, I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Monica started walking me through the charges, reading them off one by one. High-end boutiques downtown, restaurants I'd heard of but could never afford. Weekend stays at the Ritz-Carlton, a $3,000 handbag from some designer store on Fifth Avenue, and then she said something that made my blood run cold. There's also a charge from Bellissimo Ristorante on March 15th, $873. I knew that restaurant. Angelica had posted photos from there on social media. She'd been gushing about the champagne and the view. And another from the Grandview Hotel, Monica continued. 2 nights, premium suite. That was in April. Angelica had gone there for a girls' weekend. She'd shown me the pictures. My hands started shaking. I need to call you back, I said, and hung up before Monica could respond. I pulled up my online banking and stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. She was right. 3 cards I barely used, all maxed out. The balances made me want to vomit. How had I not seen this? I clicked through to the statements, and that's when I found it. The emails had been redirected. Every single statement from those 3 cards had been automatically filtered into a separate folder labeled Receipts, a folder I never checked because I didn't even remember creating it. Someone had set up a rule in my email to hide these charges from me. Someone who had access to my email, someone who lived in my house, someone who knew my passwords because I'd trusted her with them for emergencies. My daughter. I sat there staring at the screen, watching 6 months of systematic theft scroll past. Designer bags, luxury hotels, expensive dinners, weekend trips, all the things Angelica had been posting about on social media, all the things she'd claimed her friends were paying for or that she'd saved up for. She'd been stealing from me the entire time, living rent-free under my roof, driving a car I'd bought her, and repaying me by destroying my financial life. The rage hit me like a freight train. My vision actually blurred red at the edges. I grabbed my phone and pulled up Angelica's number, and my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hit the call button. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and cheerful. Hey, Dad, what's up? Come home, now. There was a pause. I'm actually out with friends right now. I don't care where you are or what you're doing. My voice came out ice cold, each word sharp enough to cut. Get home in the next 30 minutes or I'm calling the police. Silence. Then, in a smaller voice, Dad, what's wrong? You know exactly what's wrong. 30 minutes. I hung up and sat there in my office, staring at those credit card statements, feeling my entire world crumble around me. $90,000. My retirement fund, my emergency savings, my future. All gone because my own daughter had decided to play dress-up with my identity. She had no idea what was coming. But she was about to find out exactly what happens when you steal from me. I spent those 30 minutes pacing my office like a caged animal, my rage building with every passing second. I printed out every statement, every transaction, every piece of evidence. 47 pages that documented exactly how my daughter had destroyed me. When I heard her car pull into the driveway, I met her at the front door. She walked in looking nervous, clutching a designer purse against her body. One I definitely didn't remember buying her. Her eyes darted around, looking for an escape route that didn't exist. Sit, I said, pointing to the living room couch. Dad, I can explain. Sit down and shut up. You'll talk when I tell you to talk. Her eyes widened. She'd never heard me use that tone before. Good. She was about to hear a lot more of it. She sank onto the couch, and I stood over her, my arms crossed. I dropped the stack of statements in her lap like they were contaminated. $90,000, I said. $90,000. She glanced down at the papers, and I watched her face cycle through emotions. Surprise, fear, then something that made my blood boil even hotter. Defiance. Dad, I was going to tell you. You were going to tell me? When? After you'd stolen 100,000? 200? I didn't steal anything. Those are your credit cards, yeah, but I was planning to pay you back. With what money, Angelica? You work part-time at a boutique making $12 an hour. At that rate, it would take you over a decade to pay this back. And that's if you didn't spend a single dollar on anything else. She stood up, her face flushing. You don't understand. I needed those things. Needed? I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. You needed a $3,000 handbag? You needed to stay at the Ritz-Carlton? You needed to spend $800 on a single dinner? My friends all have nice things. I was tired of being the poor one. You're not poor. You live in a 4-bedroom house rent-free. You drive a car I paid for. You have zero expenses because I've been covering everything while you find yourself. That's your job as a parent, she shouted back. You're supposed to take care of me. I actually laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound that scraped my throat raw. My job as a parent was to raise you to be a functioning adult. Clearly, I failed spectacularly. But you're 23 years old, Angelica. You're not a child. You're a criminal. Don't be so dramatic. Identity theft is a federal crime. What you did? That's fraud. That's felony-level fraud. The color drained from her face. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Turn in my own daughter? I picked up my phone from the coffee table. Watch me. Dad, please. She started crying, those same tears that had gotten her out of trouble her whole life. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'll pay you back. I promise. Just give me time. A mistake? I stared at her in disbelief. A mistake is forgetting to return something you borrowed. A mistake is accidentally using the wrong card. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated, systematic theft over months. You accessed my accounts. You changed my email settings so I wouldn't see the statements. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. I sat down across from her. Every single charge was intentional. Every time you used my card, you made a choice. You chose designer bags over integrity. You chose fancy dinners over honesty. You chose to be a thief. Stop calling me that. What else should I call you? That's what you are. She stood up, her face red with anger. You know what? Maybe I did take the money. Maybe I did use your cards. But you owe me. You divorced Mom and ruined our family. You were always working, never around. The least you can do is help me now. I divorced your mother because she was having an affair, something you apparently conveniently forgot. And I worked 60-hour weeks to keep a roof over your head and food on the table. But sure, let's make this about how I failed you. You did fail me. A good father would help me fix this. A good father would have taught you not to be a thief. But since I apparently didn't do that, let me teach you something now. I picked up my phone. You have two choices. Choice 1. You sign a repayment contract, get a full-time job, and pay me back every single penny with interest. It'll take you years, and you'll hate every minute of it, but you stay out of jail. And choice two? I file a police report for identity theft and fraud. You get arrested, prosecuted, and if convicted, you go to prison. Your choice. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're actually serious. Deadly serious. Fine, she spat. Where's the contract? I'll have my lawyer draw one up. In the meantime, pack your things. What? You're moving out. Tonight. You're kicking me out? You're an adult who committed a felony against me. Yes, I'm kicking you out. You've got until midnight to pack whatever you can fit in your car. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before you stole $90,000 from me. 11:47 p.m. I stood at the living room window and watched her car in the driveway, packed to the brim with boxes and bags. She was sitting in the driver's seat crying. Part of me wanted to go out there and tell her it would be okay. But it wouldn't be okay. Not for a long time. At midnight exactly, I changed the locks. I sat in my car for a long time after I changed those locks, staring at the empty driveway where Angelica's car had been. Then I opened a beer, my hands still shaking from adrenaline and heartbreak. My phone rang. It was Claire. She's here, my sister said without preamble. Angelica just showed up at my house, hysterical. She says you kicked her out? She stole $90,000 from me, Claire. Silence. Then, 90,000? Credit card fraud. Identity theft. Take your pick. Oh my God, are you serious? I've got 47 pages of statements to prove it. What are you going to do? I'm going to make her pay back every penny. And if she doesn't, I took a drink of my beer. Then I'm pressing charges. She's your daughter, Mike. I know exactly who she is. That's why this hurts so much. I closed my eyes. Can she stay with you tonight? Just tonight. I need to figure out next steps. Of course. But Mike, are you sure about this? No, I admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. The next morning, 9 a.m., I walked into Daniel Wright's downtown office carrying a folder stuffed with every piece of evidence I'd compiled overnight. Credit card statements, emails, screenshots from Angelica's social media showing her at those expensive restaurants, wearing those designer clothes. Daniel was in his 50s, sharp-looking in a tailored suit. We'd known each other for years through business connections. He took the folder and started reading. His expression grew darker with each page. Jesus, Mike, he finally said. This is bad. Tell me something I don't know. No, I mean this is really bad. For her. He set down the papers and looked at me. This isn't just one or two unauthorized charges. This is systematic fraud over months. Any prosecutor would have a field day with this. So if I press charges, she'd be looking at serious prison time. Federal identity theft charges carry up to 15 years. Add in the dollar amount, the systematic nature, the fact that she concealed it. He shook his head. She'd be lucky to get 5 years with a plea deal. My stomach churned. I don't want her in prison. Then what do you want? I leaned back in my chair. I want my money back, all of it. And I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay, here's what I suggest. We draft an ironclad repayment contract. She pays you back the full $90,000 plus interest. I'd say 10% is reasonable. We include a clause that if she misses a single payment, you reserve the right to file criminal charges. We also include a confession of sorts, an acknowledgement that she committed these acts without your permission. She'll have to sign it? If she wants to stay out of jail, yes. And Mike? He met my eyes. You need to be prepared to follow through. If she defaults, if she misses payments, you have to be willing to press charges. Otherwise, this is just a toothless threat. I know. Do you? Because she's your daughter. When it comes down to it, I'll do what needs to be done, I said firmly. Draft the contract. That afternoon, Daniel worked fast. By 3 o'clock, I had a 20-page legal document outlining every detail of the repayment plan. $1,500 per month for the next 5 years, plus 10% interest. If she missed a single payment, I could immediately file criminal charges with all the evidence attached. I called Claire. Is Angelica still with you? She's been crying all day. Mike, she's devastated. Tell her to meet me at Delgado's coffee shop on Main Street. 1 hour. She doesn't show up, I go to the police station instead. Mike, 1 hour, Claire. I got to the coffee shop early and chose a table in the back corner. When Angelica walked in 45 minutes later, she looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Good. She sat down across from me without a word. I slid the contract across the table. Read this. Every word. She picked it up with shaking hands and started reading. I watched her face as she absorbed the terms, the monthly payments, the interest, the duration, the consequences for non-payment. 5 years? She finally said, her voice hoarse. 5 years. $1,500 a month. Non-negotiable. Dad, I can't afford $1,500 a month. Then get a better job. Get 2 jobs. Figure it out. This is insane. I leaned forward. Let me explain something to you, Angelica. You committed a serious crime. If I walked into the police station right now with these statements, you'd be arrested within 24 hours. You'd be arraigned, probably denied bail because you're a flight risk with no assets. You'd sit in county jail for months waiting for trial, and when you were finally convicted, and you would be convicted because the evidence is overwhelming, you'd go to federal prison for 5 to 15 years. Her face went white. This contract? I tapped the papers. This is mercy. This is me giving you a chance to make this right without destroying your entire life. But make no mistake, if you miss even one payment, if you're even a day late, I will press charges, and I won't be offering you a second chance. You can't do this to me, she whispered. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. I pulled out a pen and set it on the table. Sign it or don't. Your choice. But if you don't sign it in the next 60 seconds, I'm walking out that door and going straight to the police station. She stared at me like I was a stranger. I hate you, she said. I can live with that. Can you live with a felony conviction? She grabbed the pen and signed the contract with angry, jagged strokes. When she finished, she threw the pen at me. It bounced off my chest and clattered to the floor. You're a terrible father, she said, standing up. I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life. No, I said calmly, picking up the signed contract. You ruined your own life. I'm just making sure you pay for it. She stormed out of the coffee shop. I sat there in the coffee shop for a long moment after she left, staring at her signature on the contract. The coffee shop owner, a woman named Monica, who also happened to be a notary, had witnessed the whole thing. She came over and notarized the document without comment, though I caught her glancing at me with something that might have been sympathy or judgment. Didn't matter which. It was done. The contract was signed, notarized, and legally binding. Now came the hard part, waiting to see if she'd actually follow through. 2 weeks later, the first payment was due on the 15th. I started checking my bank account on the 14th. Nothing at 8 in the morning, nothing at noon, nothing at 3, nothing at 6. I checked again at 8 p.m. Still nothing. By 10 o'clock, I'd opened my laptop and pulled up the email I'd drafted to Daniel. Subject line, File Criminal Charges, Angelica Harris. The body of the email laid out everything. The missed payment, the breach of contract, my intent to proceed with prosecution. My finger hovered over the send button. 11 p.m., nothing. 11:30, nothing. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Payment notification, $1,500 deposited. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding and closed the laptop. She'd made it. Barely. The second month, same pattern. No payment until 11:52 p.m. on the 15th. I started wondering if she was doing it deliberately, seeing how far she could push me, testing whether I'd actually follow through with my threat. The third month, the payment came at 11:39 p.m. Each time, I had that email ready to send. Each time, she squeaked in under the deadline. You know what that taught me? She was playing games. Even now, even after everything, she thought she could manipulate the situation, push boundaries, see what she could get away with. Fine, let her play. As long as the money showed up, I'd let her have her little power trip. But I was counting, keeping track, building a case in my head for the day she finally slipped up. 3 months in. My phone rang late on a Thursday night. Claire. Mike, we need to talk about Angelica. I set down the book I'd been reading. What about her? She's struggling. She's working 2 jobs now, barely sleeping. She's lost so much weight, Mike. She looks terrible. That's what happens when you have to pay for your mistakes. Mike, have some compassion. I have plenty of compassion, Claire. What I don't have is $90,000. My voice was rising now. She made her choice. She's your daughter. And she's a thief, I was shouting now, standing up and pacing my living room. Why does everyone keep forgetting that? She didn't just borrow money without asking. She systematically defrauded me. She destroyed my credit. She put my entire financial future at risk. But I'm supposed to feel sorry for her because she has to work hard to fix it? She's family. Family doesn't steal from each other, Claire. If she wanted me to treat her like family, she shouldn't have treated me like a bank. There was silence on the other end. Then Claire said quietly, "She's thinking about declaring bankruptcy." My blood ran cold. She can't do that. She can. It would wipe out the debt, not this debt. I hung up and immediately dialed Daniel. He answered on the second ring. "She's talking about bankruptcy," I said without preamble. "Tell me the contract covers that." "It does?" I heard papers rustling on his end. "Debts incurred through fraud aren't dischargeable in bankruptcy. She'd still owe you every penny." "Good." "Mike," Daniel paused. "Are you sure you want to keep pushing this? Why does everyone keep asking me that? She's the one who committed the crime." "I know, but at some point, you have to ask yourself, is this worth destroying your relationship with your daughter?" I looked at the framed photo on my mantle. Angelica at her high school graduation smiling, her whole life ahead of her. "She destroyed our relationship the moment she stole from me," I said. "I'm just making sure she pays for it." "Okay," Daniel said, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. I didn't care. I was tired of being the bad guy for wanting justice. Month 6. Something shifted. The payment came in on the 8th. Not early, exactly, but not at the last possible second either. I stared at the notification on my phone, wondering if she'd made a mistake, sent it to the wrong account. Something. But no. $1,500. Right account. 8 days early. Month 7. The payment arrived on the 12th. Month 8. The 10th. I stopped checking my email every hour, started sleeping through the night again. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but I recognized it after a second. Angelica. I'd deleted her contact months ago. "I got a promotion at work. Payments should be easier now." I stared at the message for a long time. The first communication we'd had since that coffee shop. She wasn't asking for anything, wasn't making excuses, just telling me. I typed back, "Good." That was it. Just good, but it felt like something, a crack in the wall between us. Month 9. Payment came on the 7th, right on schedule. I was starting to believe maybe, just maybe, she'd actually follow through. That this nightmare might end without criminal charges, without prison, without completely destroying what was left of our relationship. Month 10. The payment came early again. I was in my office, reviewing some work files when the notification popped up. I closed my laptop and went to the kitchen to make coffee. For the first time in months, I felt something that wasn't rage or betrayal. Hope, maybe, or just exhaustion finally lifting. My phone rang. "Claire. Mike, you need to come to the hospital. It's Angelica." The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. "What happened?" "She collapsed at work. Exhaustion, the doctors say. They're running tests, but Mike," Claire's voice cracked, "she's been working herself to death trying to pay you back." I was grabbing my keys before she finished the sentence. The hospital was 20 minutes away. I made it in 12. Claire met me in the waiting area on the 4th floor, her face pale and drawn. "Room 447, she said. "Mike, she looks bad." I didn't respond. Just walked down the hallway until I found the room. Angelica was in a private room, hooked up to an IV, her eyes closed. She looked small in the hospital bed. Fragile. Nothing like the defiant girl who'd thrown a pen at me 6 months ago. She'd lost weight. A lot of weight. Her face was gaunt, dark circles under her eyes making her look a decade older than 23. Her hair was thinner, pulled back in a messy ponytail. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? For her to suffer. For her to pay. I pulled up a chair and sat down. Her eyes opened. When she saw me, fear flashed across her face. "I'll still make the payment," she said immediately, her voice hoarse. "I have the money saved. I'll transfer it as soon as I get out." "Stop," she blinked. "What?" I really looked at her then. 20 pounds lighter, minimum. Hair that used to shine now dull and lifeless. Hands that trembled slightly even at rest. She was destroying herself to pay me back. And I'd been so focused on justice, on consequences, on making sure she learned her lesson, that I hadn't stopped to ask if the lesson was killing her. "The contract stands," I said finally. "You'll keep making payments, but I want you to cut back to one job. Take care of yourself. I can't afford to. I'll extend the payment period. Instead of 5 years, make it 7. That'll lower the monthly payment to about $1,100. You can manage that with one decent job." She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Why would you do that? Because despite everything, you're still my daughter, and I don't want to kill you to teach you a lesson. The tears came then, spilling down her cheeks in silent streams. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know. I was so stupid. I was selfish and entitled, and I didn't think about what I was doing to you. I know, I said again. I just wanted... She wiped at her eyes with a shaking hand. I don't know what I wanted. To feel important, I guess. To feel like I mattered. Something in my chest cracked. You always mattered, I said quietly. You didn't need designer bags to matter. You just needed to be a decent person. She nodded, crying harder now, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I stood up, my throat too tight to speak. Get some rest. When you're discharged, I'll send you the revised contract. Dad, she called as I reached the door. Yeah? Thank you. I nodded and left, before the tightness in my throat turned into something else. In the hospital parking lot, I sat in my car with my hands on the steering wheel and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for months. The betrayal, the anger, the heartbreak, the fear that I'd lost my daughter forever. The revised contract went into effect the following week, and Angelica kept up with every payment. Not at the last minute anymore. She transferred the $1,100 by the 5th of each month, like clockwork. I started getting texts from her. Nothing deep, just updates. Started a new job, pays better. I responded, good. 3 weeks later, took a financial management class, actually learned stuff, good. 2 months after that, found a cheaper apartment, moving next week, good, brief. But I responded. That had to count for something, right? We weren't rebuilding trust. That was still too broken. But we were communicating. It was something. 14 months into the payment plan, everything changed. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Harris? This is Detective Sarah Whitlock with the Financial Crimes Unit. My stomach dropped. Yes? We've been investigating a series of identity theft cases in the area, and your name came up. It appears you were a victim of credit card fraud about 14 months ago. I gripped the phone tighter. Yes, but it's been handled. Handled how, sir? I explained the contract, the payments, Angelica making restitution. There was a long pause on the other end. Mr. Harris, are you aware that identity theft is a crime we're obligated to investigate, even if the victim doesn't want to press charges? She's paying me back, I said. She's making it right. That doesn't change the fact that a crime was committed. We'd like you to come down to the station to give a statement. And if I refuse, then we'll issue a subpoena. Sir, we have evidence of the fraud. We're going to investigate this with or without your cooperation. It would be better if you cooperated. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, my hands shaking. Then I called Daniel. They can't do this, can they? I asked the second he picked up. I didn't press charges. I have a contract with Angelica. Who's they? Daniel asked. The police, Financial Crimes Unit. They're investigating the fraud. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. They absolutely can do this. If they have independent evidence of the fraud, they can prosecute even without your cooperation. The state has an interest in prosecuting fraud cases. So what do? You tell them the truth. You explain the situation, and you hope they decide not to prosecute. And if they do prosecute, then Angelica gets charged regardless of your contract. Daniel's voice was grim. And your contract becomes void because you can't have a private agreement to conceal a crime they're actively investigating. My chest tightened. So she goes to prison. If they charge her and convict her, yes. She's looking at serious time, Mike. Federal identity theft charges don't disappear just because she's been paying you back. I hung up and grabbed my keys. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside Angelica's apartment door. She answered on the second knock, wearing her work uniform, a black polo with the retail store's logo embroidered on the chest. She'd gained back some of the weight she'd lost. Her face had color again. She looked healthy. Dad? Her face brightened, then fell. What's wrong? The police are investigating your fraud. The color drained from her face instantly. What? But I've been paying you back. It doesn't matter. They have independent evidence, and they're pursuing it whether I want them to or not. She stepped back, her hand gripping the doorframe. So I'm going to prison. Not necessarily. I'm going to do everything I can to prevent that. She looked up at me, hope and fear fighting for control in her eyes. Why would you help me? Because you've been doing the work. You've been making the payments, taking responsibility. You've changed. I stepped closer. And because you're my daughter, and I don't want to see you go to prison if I can prevent it. What can you do? I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out. Her hands were shaking. I could see the fear taking over, the same terror I'd seen in the hospital room. Dad, I can't go to prison. I'll lose my job, my apartment, everything I've built. I know. Please. Her voice broke. Please don't let them send me to prison. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She wasn't the entitled girl who'd justified theft anymore. She was someone who'd worked 2 jobs until she collapsed. Someone who'd made 14 months of payments without missing one. Someone who'd actually changed. I'll do everything I can, I said. But Angelica, you need to prepare yourself. This might be out of my hands. She sank onto her couch, and I watched all the color drain from her face. So I'm going to prison, she whispered, after 14 months of payments. After everything I've done to make this right. I sat down beside her. Not if I can help it. Why? She turned to look at me, confusion mixing with the fear. Why would you help me, after everything I did to you? Because you've been doing the work, I said. You've been making the payments, taking responsibility. You've changed. I can see that. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees. And because you're my daughter, and I don't want to see you go to prison if I can prevent it. What can you do? I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out. The next morning, I drove to the police station. Detective Whitlock met me in a bland interview room with beige walls and fluorescent lighting that made everything look washed out. I gave her everything. The fraud, the confrontation, the contract. 14 months of consistent payments. She took notes, her expression neutral. So she's been paying you back, she said when I finished. Every month, never missed a payment, not once. That doesn't change the fact that she committed fraud, Mr. Harris. The crime still occurred. I know that, but it shows she's taking responsibility. She's making amends. She's working to fix what she broke. Detective Whitlock studied me for a long moment. Most victims in your position would want the full weight of the law brought down on the perpetrator. Most victims aren't related to the perpetrator. She closed her notebook. I'll pass your statement along to the prosecutor. But Mr. Harris, you should prepare yourself for the possibility that your daughter will be charged. I understand. The waiting was agony. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then a full month. I checked my phone constantly, jumped every time it rang. Angelica texted me twice asking if I'd heard anything. I hadn't. Finally, 5 weeks after my statement, my phone rang with an unknown number. Mr. Harris, this is Thomas Clarkson, Assistant District Attorney. I've reviewed your daughter's case. My heart hammered against my ribs. Yes? I wanted to talk to you before making a final decision on prosecution. I appreciate that. Your daughter committed a serious crime. The evidence is overwhelming. Under normal circumstances, we'd absolutely prosecute to the fullest extent. I closed my eyes. Here it comes. But, he continued, you've presented an unusual situation. She's been making restitution for over a year. She's held down a job. By all accounts, she's turned her life around. She has. I'm willing to offer a deal. He paused. If your daughter pleads guilty to a reduced charge, misdemeanor fraud, and continues making payments to you under a court-supervised restitution plan, we'll agree to probation instead of prison time. Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. That's more than fair. It's pragmatic, Mr. Harris. Our prisons are overcrowded, and your daughter isn't a career criminal. This seems like a one-time lapse in judgment that she's actively working to correct. His tone hardened. That being said, if she violates probation or misses payments, she'll face the full felony charges. Make sure she understands that. I will. Thank you. I called Angelica the second we hung up. We need to talk. Come to my house tonight. 6 o'clock. Dad, I'm scared. Just come over. She arrived at exactly 6, her face pale and drawn. I didn't make her wait. They're offering a deal, I said. Plead guilty to misdemeanor fraud, continue payments under court supervision, probation instead of prison. She stared at me. Prison instead of... You mean I won't... Not if you take the deal and follow the rules. What are the rules? You plead guilty. You'll have a criminal record, a misdemeanor, but it'll be there permanently. You'll be on probation for 3 years. 1 screw-up, 1 missed payment, 1 violation, and you go to prison for the full term on felony charges. I'll take it. The words came out instantly. Whatever I have to do, I'll do it. This means a criminal record, Angelica. It'll affect job applications, background checks. I know. I deserve it. And you'll be on probation. You mess up once. I understand, Dad. I understand. She looked at me with clear eyes. I'll do whatever it takes. I pulled out the court-supervised payment plan Daniel had drawn up and set it on the table. She signed without hesitation. 3 months after signing the court-supervised agreement, I sat in the back row of a downtown courtroom watching my daughter stand before a judge. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling on the walls, fluorescent lights overhead, rows of benches that reminded me of church pews. A handful of other people scattered throughout, lawyers waiting for their cases, a court reporter, a bailiff standing near the door. Angelica stood at the defendant's table in a navy blue dress I'd never seen before, professional, conservative. Her hair was pulled back, no jewelry except small earrings. She looked older than 24. The weight she'd lost had never fully come back, and there was a seriousness to her now that hadn't existed before. The judge, an older woman with steel gray hair and reading glasses, reviewed the file in front of her. "Ms. Harris," the judge said, looking up, "you're here today to enter a plea for 1 count of misdemeanor fraud. Do you understand the charges against you?" "Yes, Your Honor." Angelica's voice was steady. "And you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving your right to a trial?" "Yes, Your Honor." "The terms of your sentence are as follows: 3 years probation, continued restitution payments to the victim, your father, Michael Harris, under court supervision. You'll meet monthly with a probation officer. You'll maintain lawful employment. And you understand that any violation of probation, any missed payment, any criminal activity will result in immediate revocation and prosecution on the original felony charges, which carry a prison sentence of 5 to 15 years. "I understand, Your Honor." The judge studied her over the reading glasses. "How do you plead?" "Guilty, Your Honor." I watched Angelica stand there, straight-backed, eyes forward. She didn't cry. She didn't make excuses. She didn't try to explain or justify what she'd done. She just accepted it. This wasn't the girl who'd sat in my living room 14 months ago, crying and blaming me for her choices. This wasn't the entitled daughter who justified theft because she needed designer handbags. This was someone different, someone who understood consequences. "The court accepts your guilty plea," the judge said. "You're hereby sentenced to 3 years probation with the terms as outlined. Ms. Harris, I hope you understand how fortunate you are. Many people in your position would be going to prison today." "I do understand, Your Honor." "Thank you." The judge nodded. "Don't waste this opportunity. You're dismissed." Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun was bright enough to make me squint. Angelica walked beside me down the stone steps, neither of us speaking until we reached the sidewalk. She stopped and turned to face me. "Thank you," she said, "for not letting me go to prison, for giving me another chance." "You're giving yourself another chance," I said. I'm just trying to be your father again. I don't deserve—" "Stop." I held up a hand. "You made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But you've been working to fix it for over a year now. That counts for something." Her eyes filled with tears. Can I hug you?" I opened my arms. She collapsed into them, sobbing against my chest like she used to when she was little and something had scared her. Her whole body shook with it. I held my daughter for the first time in over a year and felt something inside me begin to heal. Not completely. There were still cracks, still broken pieces that would take time to mend. But it was a start. "We're going to be okay," I murmured into her hair. "It's going to take time, but we're going to be okay." She nodded against my shoulder, unable to speak. We stood there on the courthouse steps while people walked past us, while traffic moved on the street, while the world kept turning. And for the first time since that phone call from the credit card company, I believed what I was saying. We were going to be okay. 2 years after the court hearing, my phone buzzed with a payment notification. $100 deposited. The final payment. I stared at the screen for a long moment. It was done. Every penny of the $90,000 plus interest paid back. We'd agreed to meet at Delgado's coffee shop. Same place where she'd signed the original contract 3.5 years ago, back when she'd been furious and defiant and convinced I was ruining her life. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at the same corner table. She looked good, healthy weight, color in her cheeks, wearing business casual clothes that looked professional without being expensive. She'd been promoted twice at her retail management job. Moved into a nicer apartment, nothing fancy, but a place she could afford on her own. Completed her probation 6 months ago without a single violation. I sat down and pulled the satisfied payment agreement from my folder, slid it across the table. "It's done," I said. "You're free." She picked up the document with shaking hands, reading the words that declared the debt complete, fully satisfied. Her eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe I actually did it," she whispered. "I can. You're stronger than you think." She looked up at me. "Dad, I know I've said this before, but I'm sorry. For everything. For what I did to you. For what I put you through. For—" Her voice cracked. "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? Really forgive me?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. About the phone call from Monica at the credit card company. About discovering 47 pages of fraudulent charges. About the betrayal cutting so deep I'd barely been able to breathe. About watching her work herself to exhaustion in that hospital bed. About the moment she'd stood in court and accepted responsibility without excuses. About the woman she'd become through 3.5 years of grinding, relentless accountability. "Yeah," I said finally. "I think I already have." She burst into tears, and we sat there in that coffee shop where this whole nightmare had turned into something with structure, with rules, with consequences. Two people who'd been through hell together and somehow made it to the other side. These days, Angelica and I have dinner once a week. We talk about her job, her friends, her plans for the future. She's thinking about going back to school for an MBA, paying her own way this time, saving up the tuition before she even applies. She's careful with money now, almost obsessively so. She tracks every penny, saves religiously, lives well below her means. The experience broke something in her, yeah, but it also rebuilt her into someone better. Someone who understands that things cost more than their price tags. As for me, my credit's mostly recovered. Took time and effort, but I'm back on track for retirement. The $90,000 is back in my savings, right where it belongs. Do I regret how I handled things? Sometimes. Late at night, I wonder if there was a gentler way, a path that wouldn't have been so painful for both of us. But then I remember that entitled girl sitting in my living room, justifying theft because she needed designer handbags to impress her friends. And I look at the responsible, hard-working woman she's become. No, I don't regret it. Her mother called me about 6 months into the payment plan, furious that I'd been so hard on our daughter. Told me I was destroying Angelica, that a real father would have just paid the debt and moved on. I told her she was welcome to pay the $90,000 herself if she felt so strongly about it. She hung up on me. Haven't heard from her since. Some family members stopped talking to me. Claire came around eventually, saw how hard Angelica was working, saw the change happening. But my brother Gerald still thinks I'm a monster. That's fine. He didn't watch his financial security disappear because someone he loved betrayed him. The thing about justice is that it's not pretty, it's not neat, it doesn't make everyone happy, but it's necessary. And sometimes, just sometimes, it leads to redemption. My daughter stole $90,000 from me. I made sure she faced consequences. Real, painful, life-changing consequences. And now, we're both better for it. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.